You're just muted, maybe. Top right corner. Oh, she can't.
Well, when we switch to closed session, we can figure out what's going on with her computer.
Okay. So with that, Ziba, may I go ahead and call the meeting to order? Are we on YouTube?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm going to call the September 14th, 2020 Natomas Charter School Board of Directors regular meeting agenda to order. Ziba, if you would please call the roll.
Sure. Karen Harding Davis.
Here.
Sean King.
Here.
Maria Mejorado.
Here.
Preeti Merchant.
You can raise your hand.
Oh, I see you, Preeti. Jennifer Morgan.
Yes, hello.
Ashante Norton.
Here.
Peggy Wheeler.
Here.
And our advisors, Jonathan Kaur. He is not attending today. And Philip Nani. Absent.
All right, thank you, Ziba. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on items on the closed session agenda? Hearing none, I'm going to ask that we adjourn to closed session to consider a couple of actions. One is the public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code 54954.2. We'll go into closed session as of 5:35.
Thank you.
All right. Great. I'm going to call the closed session to order. Joe.
Ms. Wheeler, you're gonna go into the other calendar invite that Dr. Wood had sent you.
Oh, yes.
Y'all are gonna drop this call and go into that, and this call will stay on. When you guys are done with closed session, you'll come back to this.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ziba.
You're welcome.
We'll go into the other one. Thank you.
Maria, are you okay?
I'm working it.
Okay, you're gonna end this call.
Oh, I have to end that one? Oh, I have to
I mean, I think it's probably easier for you to end this one and then join the call that Joe sent you an invite on and then come back to us.
Okay, board members, I have 6:15. So I'm going to reconvene us into open session. We did have a discussion in our closed session regarding the executive director evaluation. No particular action needs to be reported. So I will ask now, are there any members of the public who have items for discussion that aren't on tonight's agenda?
Nita, go ahead and unmute yourself. You're muted.
Oh, okay. Hi, yes, me, Nita Parham.
Go ahead, Ms. Parham.
The issue that I've been having, I know I only have 3 minutes, so I don't know if I can get it all in it, but I wanted to know, why do I have to keep reporting like the same type of behavior that I'm receiving from the principal, Ms. Carter? Ever since I reported her with my children last year, we've been attacked repeatedly. I could support that with all type of evidence, emails, everything. Also, we're continuing being harassed and retaliated against. This is our 4th year attending at Natoma's Charter Pact. And like I said, the first few years, we didn't have no issues, not one complaint, not one problem. Ever since I reported Ms. Carter's behavior, the issues that we had with my daughter, Dior, it's just been, her goal is to get us kicked out of the school. And she even emailed and threatened that. We had a curriculum problem. She gave us some books without workbooks. She gave us like some missing pieces, and then demanding for like the LRFs to be completed. And then we also had a communication problem with Mr. Matt with the communication with that. And it just seemed like no matter what I said, we just couldn't understand each other. I would email one thing, and then Mr. Matt, Ms. Carter would email me something completely different. Like we were never on the same page. Another thing, I know you guys probably have a lot of things already in writing. Like I said, we just have a lot of issues with Ms. Carter, and it would go more than 3 minutes, but I'd like to take the time. Last year, when we was dealing with all these issues and I was pregnant with my young son, Matthias, Miss Laura was amazing to us. She communicated well with my kids and I. Try not to get emotional. It was really hard for us. I didn't know what to do. You know, the emails, the attacks, and everything from Ms. Carter. Ms. Laura came in, communicating with my kids and I. My kids enjoyed talking to her. She helped us get through the rest of the school year. And when we got an email regarding like, you guys updated like the harassment with no retaliation. I got that email, and it was amazing. When I looked at all the detail, because we weren't going to come back. And when I saw that, I thought, well, let's give it a shot. You know, I think everything might be good. And then we came back, and then here we are again, still having issues, still having problems with Ms. Carter and being unprofessional. And I really, really, really need someone, you guys or whoever's in charge, like she's not being held accountable for her actions. And I don't know if you guys are aware. But that's why I'm here tonight to present, to be an advocate for my kids and for myself, because this is too stressful. It's not how school's supposed to be, you know, attacking parents and attacking children, making them afraid and terrified. It shouldn't be that way. But like I said, there's only so much I can say here at the meeting, but I'm working on getting a lot of documentations to Mr. Wood, so they could work on checking that out. Him and Dr. Ellis. But I just I'm here again I kind of wanted to come here for the good news from last year, because we weren't able to attend a board meeting after Miss Laura helped us out so much. But unfortunately, I have to raise attention to this kind of behavior, because if the shoe was on the other foot, all heck would break loose. You know, it's just not right. I'm being told to be quiet during advisor meetings when I'm trying to ask questions and communicate respectfully. My children, my mother, family members were present, and you know, we're being treated really bad. And
well, Ms. Parham, I want to thank you for taking the time this evening to share with the board members what you've been experiencing. We will, as a board, ask Natomas Charter staff to look into the situation and get back to you directly.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you so much.
Thank you.
So do I leave? Do I mute? What, I mute, right? It's my first time doing a board meeting on Zoom. Sorry.
You're welcome to do either. You're welcome to
Okay.
join and say it's a public meeting.
Okay, I'll stay. I'll mute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to now go to any member of the public that would like to publicly comment on items that are on tonight's September 14th agenda. Hearing none, can I get a motion for approval of the agenda, please?
So moved. This is Karen.
Thank you. And could I get a second, please? That Jennifer or Sean? Okay, you got it, Ziba?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I will voice vote, please. Karen Harding Davis,
Yes.
Sean King,
Yes.
Maria Mejorado,
Yes.
Pretty Merchant,
Yes.
Jennifer Morgan,
Yes.
Ashante Norton,
Yes.
and Ziba Peggy, yes.
Thank you.
Mhm. All right, you see the list of consent items, 16 items, starting with the August 10th board meeting minutes, personnel changes, salary schedules, etc. Joe, do you want or need to say anything about the consent items on the agenda?
I don't believe so. They're all straightforward, and we did not receive any questions from board members, so they should.
Okay, very good. Then could I have a motion to approve the consent items on the agenda?
I so move. This is
I
Shante.
second it.
Thank you, Ashante.
I'll second.
We have a second? Yep, great, thank you. Voice vote, please, by name. Karen,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
Pretty,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Ashante,
Yes.
and Ziba Peggy, yes. All right, I have 6:23 p.m. and we will open this public hearing to hear the 2020-21 Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan. Are there any public comments? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed as of 6:23 p.m. Joe?
You're muted.
You're on mute.
I always forget to unmute myself. They need an auto version of that. So I do think we probably want to make it 6:24 p.m. so that we have a different opening and closing time. But I'm going to do a brief little presentation on the learning continuity and attendance plan, so you know what's before you. Tonight is the public hearing where we could receive public comment, and then we are scheduled to adopt this plan at our next meeting on September 28th. So I'm actually going to share my screen here. Oh, Ms. Hone, can you give me the ability to share my screen?
There you go.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. So our learning continuity and attendance plan is actually posted on our website, natomascharter.org/accountability. It's right up here at the top, and you guys actually have a copy of this in your board packet for tonight. So I'm just going to open it up so you have, what exactly I'm talking about. So our learning continuity and attendance plan is a multi-page document that we need to adopt this year as part of the way schools are being funded. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And in the learning continuity and attendance plan on this website, we also have an opportunity for members of the public to provide any additional feedback beyond this meeting and other feedback that we've already collected as we've been doing our planning this year. We've had a couple of individuals fill out the survey, and generally the feedback is reflected in the presentation that I'm actually going to switch over to in a second. So you have this multi-page document. The intent of these slides is just to kind of help you walk through the document and know everything that's there. So just a little background, it is required by SB 98, which is basically it's the bill that really outlined distance learning and all of the funding related to the 2021 school year. It documents our response to COVID-19 and really memorializes the planning that was already underway. It's based on stakeholder feedback, and because we're Natomas Charter School and we like talking to our parents and our community, we've been engaging in stakeholder feedback since May. So the plan that you see before you tonight really encapsulates all of those conversations. And we are adopting it this year in lieu of a local control and accountability plan. So that is actually on pause for this year. We're adopting this instead. Tonight's the public hearing. We'll recommend for adoption on the 28th, and then we will submit it to the county office in Natomas Unified. And then later this year, we'll actually be adopting a budget overview document for parents. So mentioning stakeholder feedback. So we have been soliciting feedback all the way back, really actually since April. We were doing student surveys, parent surveys, staff surveys, multiple community meetings and staff meetings. We've had discussions at all of our board meetings about our COVID reopening. And we also produced our NCS Community Reopening Guidebook. And the idea with the formal plan that you're seeing tonight is that we posted it on September 2nd to start receiving feedback on the website. And then an all parent email was sent out on September 4th to each of the academies, soliciting feedback there as well. So in terms of what's in the plan, there's a section that talks around our in-person offerings that we plan on offering this year. And so as you know from previous board meetings, really our focus is on prioritizing in-person instruction to the greatest extent possible. And right now, while we're starting with distance learning, we're already preparing for that transition to in-person. We're planning for hybrid instruction, which would allow all students to access campus, but families will also have the opportunity to choose extended distance learning. And we're also looking at ways that we could have students with the highest needs, so maybe our special education and our English learners, for example, to come for 4 days when possible, rather than the default 2-day shifts. Also in this document, it outlines some of our health and safety protocols. So making sure all students and staff have personal protective equipment. We purchased additional furniture and materials to ensure we have 6-foot physical distancing in all of our classrooms, along with additional cleaning supplies and training and signage for students and staff. If you have been on campus, you'll know there's little posters on the ground showing you where you can stand. So we're 6 feet apart from one another. There's a section in this document that talks about distance learning. And as we've talked about in previous board meetings, our focus is really making sure that students have access to high quality instruction. So we're providing student devices and either providing mobile hotspots in terms of wireless internet or working with families on strategizing home internet connections. We're providing all curriculum resources in our learning management systems. We're recording lessons as support, providing both synchronous and asynchronous, so live and recorded or independent activities for students. We're also really focusing on our students with the highest needs. So in the case of our special education students, we have case managers meeting with them and their families. We're also in the process of establishing our distance learning support hubs now that the public health guidelines allow for that, which will allow for students to start coming to school for additional support on Wednesdays. We're going to talk a little bit more about what that looks like in a second. Same sort of thing for our EL students. And then starting this week, we're actually able to do our individualized assessments on campus for our English learners and special education students and the distance learning hubs, which I mentioned. Also in this document, you'll see pupil learning loss strategies. So really our focus is identifying gaps. So really looking at reading and math using iReady and the CASP interim assessment blocks. We'll also have teachers using benchmarks or curriculum-based assessments. And we're reviewing the data as collaborative teams, really trying to figure out, did individual students have any gaps in their learning as a relation to COVID and the campus closures earlier this year? And then in terms of our learning loss strategies, we had our summer learning program. Remember, we had the voluntary program where students could participate in activities all summer. I know my son did a lot of iReady this summer and reading books and posting different activities. But we also, all of our teachers worked on really revamping their curriculum and focusing on the essential, or if you will, power standards. What are the things that kids may have missed in the spring that are essential to their learning this year? Also, staff are reaching out and providing individual coaching and support. So in all of our academies, we have office hours pretty much every day of the week that are accessible to any students and or parents, especially with younger grades. And then looking at those distance learning support hubs, which are going to be opportunities for students to come to campus and get some in-person support. In terms of mental health and SEL supports, we really focused on a proactive approach. So web and link crew, which are some of our community building activities for middle and high schoolers, we looked at virtual, we rolled out virtual options of those. Our staff are also working on advisory activities to build community and really looking at collaborative instructional approaches in classrooms, such as breakout rooms, where kids can really build relationships through the work. And so far, feedback from families and students has been really positive in this area. The students really appreciating that opportunity to interact with their peers through the content. The staff is working on developing some virtual events, so potentially a virtual dance or virtual socials or other activities. And then we're also providing parent and community support through Academy virtual parent events. So many of these have actually been posted on our YouTube page, but most of the Academy coordinators, or in the case of Star Academy, each individual teacher are actually hosting weekly or monthly meetings where parents can kind of come together and talk about what's working in distance learning and where they might need some additional support. Similarly, on the counseling front, we've been providing some one-on-one crisis support and some small group support, and working on referral to outside services where it's really beyond our capacity to provide it in the COVID model. And then in terms of pupil engagement and family outreach, so we have a tiered re-engagement process. Oh, there's a typo on that slide I gotta fix. There's a tiered re-engagement process though that really is looking at students who may be missing 60% or more of their work for the week, or students that are academically struggling. And it's aligned with our existing multi-tiered systems of support processes, where it's really about bringing teachers together and looking at the data and figuring out how we can provide additional supports to individual students, providing translation services needed. And in terms of school nutrition, which is also in the plan, we're continuing to partner with Natomas Unified and ensuring that all of our students have easy access to services and food, regardless of the attendance format. So looking at how we're going to roll out nutrition when we're in a hybrid format or a distance learning format, et cetera. So that was a quick overview of a multi-page plan. Questions that I can answer for any of the board members?
Do you have any examples of what the advisory teachers are doing to help create connections in the classroom?
I have some general ones, but I'm actually, Seema or Amanda, would you like to speak to Leading Edge and PFA and some of those things that have been going on?
I can. This month it's been very low key. It's really just about having fun together. So like they'll do like brainstorms, like if you could go to a desert island and take one thing, like what would you take? And I know that sounds like super simple, but actually just getting kids to talk to each other in the virtual meetings is a pretty big deal. Mr. Shane is popping into classes doing rally games, which is hilarious if you have a chance to watch that. And really just getting to know each other, getting to know you, kind of connecting in that sort of way. We're also doing like breaks, like if they have like a 5-minute, like they get like 5 minutes to chat with their buddies in breakout rooms and then come back into the classroom, sort of like we would if you had like a 2-minute break in the class. Just really trying to norm talking to each other in this format.
Okay. Dr. Gandhi or Seema, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, so during advisory at PFAA, we're spending, so we have 2 advisory sessions, the mornings and the afternoons. And so in the afternoons, we're really focusing on the SEL component that's being provided by student services. And so our teachers are going through the different lessons. So for an example, this week and last week, they were focusing on suicide. And so our teachers are having dialogue, discussions, talking about the process that you're feeling with regards to mental health. And then the mornings are more for check-ins. We do grade checks with the students. We support the students in logging into Schoology, and then asking them what exactly they have planned for the day, providing the students an opportunity to join breakout rooms and connect with each other. We're also using that time to play Kahoot games with them, very low key, but just really focusing on that connection piece and really focusing on connecting with the students, connecting with each other, connecting with self, and also connecting with the teachers. And so the piece about connecting with the teachers is in the mornings, and then in the afternoons, we're really focusing on SEL.
Thank you. Other questions that we could potentially answer? We do have a COVID-19 update too, where we will talk a little bit later in the meeting about some of the activities and learning that's been going on around COVID-19. So if there are questions that come up, you'll have another opportunity related to COVID.
So next step for this, Mr. Wood, will be to approve this plan as presented at the next meeting on the 28th.
That is correct, on September 28th.
Okay.
All right.
So if there are no other questions, I'm going to take us to item K, our action items. The first is to approve the 2019-20 unaudited financial actuals. Anita?
Good evening, everybody. Let me just present my screen. Okay, can everybody see this?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, well, all in all, great news. Even though it was a very unusual year, we're going to go over revenues and expenditures and a snapshot of our financial statements, what the highlights were for this year, some cash flows and notes to the financial statements, and then what comes next in the process. So for revenues, I wanted to start off with saying this was our year that was COLA only year after reaching full funding. So we did get full funding and we got a COLA of 3.26%. Also, our CBEDS was 1,827 students in October of 2019. And we were funded on a modified P2 reporting period of 1,792.95 in average daily attendance, which equates to about an over 98% attendance ratio, which is great. We'll talk about the modified attendance reporting period later on. And then also we received a lot of local revenues that we will go over in detail, including E-rate and interest earnings. So before I get into the detail of the numbers, I did want to take a moment in your board packet because this, the unaudited actuals, we include the state form, which is called the alternative form that independent charter schools have as an option to report their numbers to the state. So in your board packet, I believe on the board packet page 59 is where the alternative form starts, and it goes for several pages. So this is actually, it's an abbreviated version of the state SAC software version on that. And it breaks out the revenues and expenditures and fund balance by unrestricted funds, restricted funds, and total. So starting on page 66 is where you are more familiar with the financial statements. We have our board summary on page 66, our board detail of that on page 67. The financial statements by academy are page 68 and 69. We included an update of our education protection account funds on page 70. And then also for your information, a schedule of MOU fees, which is the last page on there. So looking at our revenues, we are closing with $19.7 million in those categories there. And when we compare estimated actuals to unaudited actuals, we actually are seeing an improvement of over 616,000. Mainly when we were closing, we got about 27,000 additional in local control funding formula monies. However, we did see a decrease in federal funds by over 195,000, but that was made up by our Sacramento SELPA of additional state funds of over 210,000. We also got a nice surprise for our Northern California Confucius Classroom Consortium, they sent money in early of about $200,000 that we received for the program that was going to start in this current school year. We also had to book that famous STIRS on behalf entry, the phantom entry I always talk about, but it increased this year based on this, how the state did their budget by $240,000. So that's part of the increase in revenues. And then we did receive about 14,000 additional lottery funds due to ADA changes and over 150,000 in local revenues, which includes additional interest, donations, and E-rate funds. So here's a snapshot of what our revenues look like. And again, our attendance ratio is about 98%. And just to note that over 81% is revenue that's come from student attendance on there. Lottery only equates to 2% of our funds. Special ed, this was our first year operating in-house, and that is now accounting for 5% of our revenue. So it is a substantial program. And then the remaining 12% is miscellaneous state programs and local funds. When we take a peek at the expenditure side, we have all the major categories outlined out there for a total of $25.9 million. So with that, I'm breaking down the numbers, kind of looking at estimated versus what we actually end up with and stuff. We had a net savings or underspending of salaries and benefits by only $36,000. When you look into the details, we know that the STIRS on behalf increased by $240,000. However, because we experienced school closure for the global pandemic and stuff, we had over $276,000 in savings in salary and benefits. So those two netted together to be about a $36,000 savings on there. And that mainly it was due to substitutes because we closed the school, we didn't use all those budgets, stipends, and miscellaneous payrolls. Now, the bigger chunk of underspending in the operational accounts, which is our books, supplies, professional services, and capital outlay, those we experienced almost a $1.2 million savings, and that is mainly broken up of over 600 and let me just check on here. 630,000 is related to restricted carryover funds. So that just means that we underspent what we have to book them as carryovers in the new year. We also, after building the new PACT Resource Center, we also experienced $287,000 savings in that area for the project budget. So that was really great. We may be using some of that for some of the furniture and equipment that got delayed and was received in 2021. And then the remainder, which is over 330,000, was underspending in those areas, tough too. So virtually when we closed the books when we closed the doors mid-March, spending pretty much came to a halt on our side on there. So looking at the graph here, we have a pie chart that shows based on this year's or 2019-20's total expenditures, salaries and benefits make up 71% of the total expenditures. However, please note that we had over 8.7 million in capital outlay. So if you remove that, our salaries and benefits are now actually running us 81%. So they're starting to get up there to the normal district average. We used to hover around like 78% on there. The remaining 29% is the books, supplies, services, and then capital outlay. And if you were to remove the capital outlay out of the budget and just look at MOU fees, the MOU fees are running about 3% still total for our budget. So the summary piece right here kind of shows you the difference. It is putting side by side the estimated actuals compared to the actuals and the variance. So revenues, we had an increase of 615,000. Then you'll see that the 1.2 in savings for expenditures. So our fund balance increased by 1.8 million on there. And so as we close the books, we know that there is over 630,000 in restricted carryovers that we have to book. We also have set aside 10% to the nearest thousand for our economic reserves. As we have other 32,000 in other carryovers for programs, and 3.14 million in other obligations. And that's our set asides that we have for the STRS increases, salary and benefit increases, special ed operations savings, and as well as technology plan replacements, and $4 million in cash operating reserves. So earlier this year, we had you approve the financial reserve policy. So I'm happy to announce we are meeting our policy. Our fund balance is 40% of our total expenditures. But remember, of our total expenditures, we had 8.7 million just in capital outlay alone. So, but we are meeting that policy that we have there. So some of the financial highlights that we had. So our local control funding formula, we resulted in an additional $288.81 per ADA, which is an average of $9,006 per student if they were there for the full year. We also received additional special ed funds, as I mentioned, and our Northern California Confucius Classroom, which we fondly refer to as N4CO, came in early. Because we still have a high cash balance, we received additional interest earnings. We also got our E-rate confirmations back, and then we had that large increase in the STRS on behalf. On the expenditure side, we were able to complete the PACT building and finalize that project. COVID did really have an impact on school for the 3 months. We virtually stopped spending, but there were expenses that we had to buy to deep clean the classrooms and prepare. And so those we were able to charge to some of the CARES Act money early on, where the funds are coming in this year. We did get to fund our technology replacement plan. We bought all new laptops for the special ed staff, iPads and cart replacements and Chromebook replacements, as well as a filter, firewall, and admin server replacement. And then of course, the opposite side of the STRS on behalf. Continuing with expenditures, we were able to fund all step and professional level staff increases. We increased salary schedules, various salary schedules to address minimum wage compliance, and reconstructed our admin salary schedule. For cash, okay, you all heard the cash deferrals were back. So we had to defer $3 million for our June cash deferral, but we did get it on July 15th. Our ending cash balance as of June 30th on our books is 9.8 million. And so a lot of that has to do with the school closure and conservative underspending as well. So we would have actually had a lot more cash than that if only we didn't get those cash deferrals. So moving on next, this is the start of a new school year, 2021. And now that the books are closed, we're going to be focusing now on the first interim report, which we will be bringing to you in December, along with another LCAP update for parent overview. And the second interim report will follow in March. And then we will be back to closing the books again and for our audit that's coming up. The auditors will be here in our office on the week of October 12th to start or conclude the 2019-20 audit, and then they'll wrap up with our nonprofit taxes as well on the spring of that year. So I will open up for questions.
Members, any questions on Anita's report? Well, thank you, Anita.
Okay. You're welcome.
Looks like we're in a very good, healthy position.
Starting for, yes, we are in good shape for this year, and I would look forward to talking to you about first interim in December.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's move to action item number 2. Kevin, you're going to give us a VLA course certification resolution.
Kevin may have stepped away for a moment. His dad duty.
Okay, dad duty.
So I'm going to fill in the gap for him. So we
Okay.
have the VLA course certification resolution. So this is the resolution that certifies that the courses that we offer at VLA are of equal quality to the courses that are offered at PFAA. As Ziba and I were just looking over this, we found a little typo. On the top of the resolution, under in the matter of the VLA course certification, it has the last date on it. So this resolution, thank you, Ziba, for bringing it up. If as a board you vote to approve this resolution, oh, Ziba already got it fixed. Awesome, look how good she is. But we just want to make sure it has the correct date on it. She's amazing.
And then,
oh, the Kevin's here, good job.
Sorry, yeah, my phone froze like immediately as I was ready to unmute.
I hate when that happens. All right.
So on, so I just wanted to give everybody an update. Nothing has changed from this resolution since virtually all the classes are the same. The only real difference is study skills has moved from a semester course to a year-long course. There will be more changes coming once things are removed from our course catalog as the dual enrollment rollout continues. But all that is a list of our courses that are listed in our course catalog.
Thank you, Kevin.
Is this an okay time to ask about a class that's listed? I was curious.
Sure.
Sure. I will also maybe just clarify that not every one of these classes here actually have students in the seat. The classes are offered dependent on student enrollment. And so, for example, psychology only had like 1 or 2 kids interested for this semester, so we're not actually offering that on campus.
Oh, I see. Okay. I can wait. I don't know if you want to do your presentation, but there's a couple there that kind of caught my interest.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is this good? There's a class called the internship course, and another is a reader's course. I wanted to know a little more about that.
So Reader's Choice was offered through our library. It is no longer, it's not a current active course. We look to probably discontinue that down the road, but Ms. Prettle had one time taught it. And then in terms of, I'm sorry, the second course was internship. That is a junior class for the second semester. And it's really to get kids out in the community and an initial run to prep them for their senior project.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Any other questions about the course certification? Ziba, I assume that you would like for me to do a voice vote, aye or nay, and then we will work out the mechanics of the signatures.
Yes, I will reach out tomorrow and do the normal emails where we're scheduling some times for y'all to come by to do signatures. And I do just want the record to reflect that the resolution that's in the packet does include the resolution that has the typo, but the one that you all will be signing tomorrow will be whole and have the correct date, which is what's put up on the screen right now.
Thank you. Thank you for making the correction on the screen. So by voice vote, aye or nay on the resolution for the course certification. Karen?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Thank you. Maria?
Aye.
Pretty?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Is she there?
She's giving a thumbs up. Yes, I
Aye.
Oh, okay.
I'm here. Sorry. I was wondering why you paused so long, Peggy.
No worries, no worries. Ashante?
Aye.
And Ziba, Peggy, aye.
And Ms. Wheeler, I want to also say that for the unaudited actuals, we do need to have a motion and a vote. I didn't capture that. That didn't happen, right?
Okay, very good. Thank you. We'll go back. Can I get a motion to approve the 2019-2020 unaudited financial actuals as presented by Anita Schwab. I need a motion to approve.
I motion to approve the financials.
Thank you, Priti. I need a second.
I'll second.
Jennifer?
Yes.
All right, voice vote, please. Karen?
Yes.
Thank you. Sean?
Aye.
Thank you. Maria?
Yes.
Thank you. Priti?
Yes.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Yes.
Thank you. Ashante?
Yes.
Thank you. And Ziba, Peggy, yes.
Thank
All right,
you.
let's.
I just have one other question. Can you tell me who did the second on the resolution? I have Karen making the motion. Who did the second?
I thought it was Jennifer.
I think it was me.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ziba, you have what you need for where we are?
Thank you.
Okay, good. Let's move to action item number 3, approving the declaration of a need for fully qualified teachers. Very interesting declaration, but yes, please go ahead, Mr. Wood.
So this is an annual declaration that we do each year to have ourselves ready in case we find ourselves in a situation where we cannot hire a fully qualified teacher for a particular position. The good news is that at this moment in time, we actually have no need for this declaration, but it's still best practice to have it approved and on file. The idea here is that it allows us to hire the high need areas, for instance, special education specialists, or maybe a science teacher or a math teacher that might not yet be fully qualified with a teaching credential or yet enrolled in an intern program. So once again, this is just best practice at this point to approve it. So if we just need a motion and a second and then approval by the board.
I'll move that we approve it. This is Maria.
Thank you, Maria. I need a second.
I'll second.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Ashante. So I'll call this the in case Peggy needs to teach motion. I'll call by voice vote. Karen?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Priti?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Ashante?
Yes.
And Peggy, yes, Siba. All right, so I think that covers our action items. Let's go to item L, which are discussion and information items. First one being board terms and election of officers. Dr. Wood.
So attached to your packet, you'll find the latest information on board terms. As I meant, this is just an informational item, kind of letting everyone know where you are in the process. So our bylaws were adjusted a few years ago to make sure that both the community representatives and the parent representatives from each academy have the same bylaws around them. And so our structure is that each board member may serve up to 3 two-year terms, so a total of 6 years. And you can see here, based on the bylaws, that Peggy is close to being termed out, but everyone else has a term or 2 left. And then Phil and Jonathan are board advisors. Those are non-voting positions, so those don't necessarily have a number of terms, but they are 1-year approvals. So what I will be doing is reaching out to both Phil and Jonathan to find out if they would like to continue to remain as board advisors. And then we'll have some shifting going on. Jennifer Morgan is no longer a PACT or VLA parent, so that position will come open.
So Dr. Wood, I'll make an announcement that when Dr. Wood and I talked about this, he did offer that I could transition into the board advisor position, therefore opening up the community rep position that Jennifer may be interested in. I have declined, so my last meeting will be in October.
But Peggy did promise to always be a lifelong phone a friend to all.
Phone a friend,
She's
yeah.
not going to change her phone number or move.
At least that's what I said. Yes.
Well,
So.
sorry, I think someone was going to say something.
Really glad I was nice to you earlier, Peggy.
Yeah, me too, Jen.
I'm so sad.
Are you sure, Peggy?
You know, the thing is, I have accepted another board position, and so I'm actually feeling a little overwhelmed. And so I think it's time, and I have such confidence in my colleagues on this board. They don't need me around to advise. You guys got this. So.
Well, we do have 2 more meetings with Peggy. We have our September 28th and then our October meeting. But I think I speak at least on behalf of everyone in the administration team. We sincerely appreciate all of the years of service you've given to our school. We could not have done a lot of this work without you and your voice and your leadership. And so I know I've appreciated having you as my phone a friend for all the various fun first year executive director things that have come up this last year. So thank you.
Thank you, Joe. The feeling's mutual, and it's been for me, those of you that know, seeing my son Silas through charter and having you all embrace us as a family has meant everything. Giving back was the easy part. So thank you for that. Okay, so let's move.
Before we go past this one, sorry, there's one little last part we gotta figure out here. So for the PAC VLA parent representative, tomorrow we will be posting the application.
Oh, yeah.
Where individuals can apply. I do need probably 2 board members who would be interested in being part of the appointment committee. Remember that according to our bylaws, the appointment committee interviews all of the applicants that are interested in applying and makes a recommendation to the board as to which candidate to move forward. We're looking at doing the interviews, and the appointment committee would meet the week of September 28th. So it's the same week that we would have a board meeting on Monday, and then the appointment committee would meet more than likely Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday afternoon. We'll coordinate schedules together. But if you are interested in participating in the appointment committee, you can let me know now, or shoot me an email. But like I said, we're looking for roughly 2. We can do up to 3 individuals that would be interested in being part of the appointment committee.
So I'm happy to help if you can
Wonderful.
benefit from it.
No, I think having your voice as a multi-year PAC parent would actually be a really good part of that process.
Excellent.
Okay. I'm available too, Joe, if you need.
Okay. So it sounds like I got Jennifer and Ashante. And if anyone else, or I'll just reach out. Pretty? Okay. So I'll reach out to the 3 of you guys and see if we can coordinate schedules a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Wood, item number 2, the COVID-19 update.
COVID-19 update. So this feels like part 2 of the learning continuity and attendance plan. So we're going to talk about the other parts of COVID and what our COVID response has been. So let me go ahead and bring up those slides here. So I'm actually really excited to share this presentation with you all tonight. I have been astounded at the work our teachers and staff have done over the last 5 weeks. And I know those of you that are also parents at Natomas Charter School are feeling the same way, because you shared that with me in our quarterly meetings over the last couple of weeks. But tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about the work that we've been doing since school started and kind of where we're headed probably within the next month or 2. So objectives for tonight's conversation, just providing a status update to the board and talking a little bit about the road ahead. You also see some pictures. This is Mrs. Benz, who's our TK teacher over at Star Academy. You can see this is how she actually connects with her kids every day. She has her TV set up in her computer. And because she also is an actress, if you did not know, she's actually starred in quite a few commercials that you might have seen on TV. She brought her own lighting kit from home too, to make sure that she was properly lit, which I thought you would all appreciate as well. But we're going to talk a little bit about what our distance learning practices have been, how we're building in-person supports and planning for this transition to hybrid learning. So in terms of feedback, we have been doing quite a bit of surveying of students, staff, and families with the start of this year. We believe firmly that our community is on this journey with us. And especially this year. Normally I can walk into a classroom and see what kids are doing and get a sense of what we need to tweak and adjust. This year, we don't have that luxury, and we need the parents' eyes to help us a little bit. So in terms of strengths, what we've really heard from the full community is appreciating consistent schedules that look kind of like a normal school year schedule, that kids are engaged for almost an entire day. The work is meaningful, and especially like in examples like with Leading Edge, where Leading Edge has a project-based learning component that the teachers are putting in PBL aspects in it, that there's both academic and SEL connections. And to quote one parent, it's as close to real world as it possibly could be, considering distance learning, and that there's a real strong connection between the teachers and peers. And you can see in these two pictures, this is Mrs. Torres at the top, who is a first grade teacher at STAR, and she's connecting with her kids on a math lesson. And this is Mrs. Greninger at PFAA, who is one of our visual arts teachers, really kind of modeling for kids a drawing. And you can see the work that the teachers are doing there. Some challenges that we're facing is distance learning is really intense, especially for the teachers. And one of the questions that we're trying to think through is how sustainable is this long-term, especially as we transition to hybrid. So over the next couple of weeks, we're really meeting in teacher leadership teams to talk a little bit about where do we need to refine distance learning as we prepare for hybrid. Everything takes so much longer to do in distance learning. I watched a lesson the other day with a masterful teacher. But I mean, she probably had to spend the first half of the period just making sure kids were all getting in the right spaces with technology and stuff. So things just take a little bit longer. The state requirements are a little confusing and keep changing. And so that is creating a little bit of anxiety for all of us. We have technology hiccups like we did tonight, where before we went live on YouTube, Ms. Hone had to restart her computer because we were trying to figure out why the mic was being weird. We have those in the classroom. Some students need a little more support. While this distance learning is working well for a lot of kids, there's other kids that need some support. We also are trying to figure out how do you help the pre-emergent readers, so our TK through second grade students, work as independently as possible, especially when their parents are trying to work at the same time the students are trying to learn. And I think a question that we're also grappling with is how much screen time is too much screen time? And how do we keep kids engaged and keep them connected to learning, but at the same time making sure they're not having eye and computer fatigue? In terms of what attendance has looked like, it's been really strong. So we tracked attendance, the first 3 days of school individually, and then we've been tracking attendance week over week. And you can see we're pretty much always in the 99 to 100% attendance range. Now, realize that you earn attendance this year from a couple of different ways: by attending a Zoom meeting, so a video conference, completing work, and interacting with teachers either individually or during office hours. We also have, though, a tiered re-engagement process going on that's really focused on who's struggling. And we're using our existing MTSS process, which is teachers coming together, usually on Wednesdays, to talk through data. And so the data points that we're looking at in terms of who needs extra support are grades. So in the case of PFAA, who has D's and F's right now and what's going on there? Work completion and the timeliness of the work completion. We're also starting to look at assessment data. So we've been doing our iReady diagnostic assessments for the fall. And then also any SEL concerns that we're aware of, whether it's parents that have reached out or students that have reached out. But that tier re-engagement process is really communities of teachers and administrators and other support staff coming together and figuring out, okay, who do we need to make sure isn't falling through the gaps, and how do we give them additional support? And so what are those supports? So we have a few things going on. At STAR, we have our SCAPE program, which used to be called BASE. So we usually have 20 to 30 students that are there all day. We're providing childcare for those families, but really what the staff is doing is providing some distance learning support. It's not tutoring, it's more just making sure kids have the support that they need to get to the right video conference sessions, or if they're trying to find something in their binder, and really providing that structure and support. We also have distance learning support going on in a lot of different ways. So technology, members of our technology team reaching out, making sure kids can get on their Chromebooks, et cetera. Checking out library materials. That's actually what you see down in this picture here. So our library staff has been running out a checkout service where students can order books, and then parents or students can swing by campus and pick them up, and then providing office hours. As I mentioned earlier, we're also doing parent meetings. So academy specific, or in STAR's case, they actually have weekly class meetings. And really looking on focuses around parent supports and training. And then in terms of like, where are we heading? So you may have seen in some of my weekly updates to you as a board that we have a new process for reopening in California. So we no longer have the monitoring list. We now have this color-coded list that we're all learning about. And really, in listening to the California Department of Public Health and the State Superintendent of Public Instruction last week, the goal here is really to have a more nuanced reopening process. So rather than just saying a county's off the monitoring list and everything can open back up, trying to open up in a little bit more phased model. So we get updates every Tuesday, and it's based on two metrics: the number of cases per 100,000 residents each day over the past week, and the percent of positive tests over the past week. A school cannot reopen for full instruction until we go from the widespread, which is this purple tier, to substantial, which is the red tier, and maintain that red tier for 14 days. So in our case in Sacramento County, we are currently in this purple zone. We're waiting to go to red. When we go to red, and we've been there for 2 weeks, we can look at opening our campuses. There is one little exception to this, and that's the potential of applying for K-6 waivers when you're in the purple tier. But right now, at this point, no schools in Natomas, including Natomas Charter School, are planning on applying for waivers, largely just because, one, we don't want to risk opening to only have to close. And if the infection rates are fairly high in our community, that's, I think, something we want to be really thoughtful and intentional about. The other just logistical issue that we have to navigate is that if staff members are also parents, they actually qualify for some of the federal leave, which we'll talk about in a second, which means that we would actually have a significant number of substitutes on campus as we're trying to open. And so that would not create a high degree of consistency for our students.
Joe, on that previous screen, I just want to make sure, under new cases, those are percentages, just like in positive, more than 7% of the 100,000. What does more than 7 mean?
You're talking about, I'll make sure I'm looking at the right place. This number down here, like 7.2.
No, widespread, right up here.
Right up here.
Yeah.
So this is the number of cases per day per 100,000 residents.
Okay.
In the county.
So it's not a percentage, it's an actual number.
It's an actual number. So they're looking at how many positive cases do we have per day per 100,000 residents. And we can't be more than 7. And I think on here, we were averaging 9.1 when I took this screenshot. So I think there's, let's say there's 1 million people in Sacramento County. I'm probably a little wrong on that. There's basically 91 positive cases per day on average in Sacramento County as a result. So we have to be under 7 and have a positivity rate that's under 8% in order to move from widespread to substantial. You have to have both things. And in talking to public health last Friday, we were looking good on our positivity rate. It was below 8%. They had some concerns on new cases. They also have some concerns just over Labor Day as a whole, especially with that gathering that occurred at the Capitol. There was a religious gathering at the Capitol.
Right.
And that was something that they were specifically mentioning, having some concerns over, just because there was no social distancing or mask wearing being practiced by the individuals that were at that event. So they have some concerns over how that might impact us. But every Tuesday, there's an update. And so on Tuesdays, we kind of look and see. Based on these timelines, the earliest we are probably looking at having students on campus and being in that substantial zone is mid-October. That would be sort of an ideal case scenario. More realistically, it might be closer to the beginning of November or even mid-November. Completely dependent, though, on the public health conditions and case rates. So in terms of other public health updates, the good news is that the Sacramento County Public Health worked with the Board of Supervisors and is in the process of providing greater access to testing to school site staff. So there's actually going to be a new testing model that school site staff throughout the county can access. Testing is looking at like a 24 to 48 hour turnaround time on results. Testing was supposed to start today, that new testing program. We're waiting to get some more details before we roll it out with our staff. And the county's also working on having individuals at each school site that can assist with contact tracing, because access to testing and contact tracing are two really important things before we can open to campuses. We have been approved for individual services. So this is the individual in-person assessments for example, English learners or special education students. We've also been approved as a county for one-on-one crisis or emergency counseling in person. But for both of these, the county, we still have a pretty high infection rate and they want us to have virtual services to the greatest extent possible. We've also been approved for small group or cohort supports. So these are intended for the highest need students who need in-person supports. This is what really allows us to have our distance learning hubs. And later in these slides, I'll talk about how we're going to roll that out. It is not intended to provide primary instruction or circumvent the reopening process. As you may have seen in the news, there was a school or two that was doing that. So county public health has been very open that that is not the intent of that. This is really to provide supports for students. And these support groups have to be stable cohorts that can't mix. So the idea is, let's say 10 kids that are coming onto campus and they're only interacting with the kids in their cohort, and the adult that is supporting them is also the only one interacting with them. And then we have the elementary waiver process is available. At this point, not currently being pursued by any public schools in Natomas. And then some additional wrinkles. So we have the fun, you might have noticed it's been raining ash outside the last few weeks. And so that creates a little bit of an issue for us. Remember that our COVID-19 response is to optimize the HVAC system. So they bring in as much outside air as possible, and ideally have doors propped open and have students outside to the greatest extent possible. Obviously, when the AQI is hazardous or unhealthy, that is really problematic. But we did install some new campus air monitors that are going to help us measure. And we're working on developing a policy that probably is going to look like when we transition to hybrid learning, whenever the AQI forecast is for hazardous or unhealthy, we're going to revert to distance learning and have students working from home on those days. Think of it a little bit like, unfortunately, the Sacramento version of a snow day, I guess. We will be looking at wildfire smoke days and how we can support those. We've also had two legislative updates happen. So remember in a previous board meeting, we talked about AB 1384, which would provide some legal liability for schools if a student or staff member contracts COVID-19. So that bill did not make it out of committee, and so did not make it to the assembly floor for a vote. My understanding from AXA and CCSA is that it was largely, there's a big pushback from the trial lawyers associations, kind of feeling that if we give this legal liability indemnification to schools, that they might not take public health orders seriously. And then there's a bill regarding workers' compensation that the workers' compensation based on a governor's current order, basically if you contract COVID-19, it's assumed that you got it at work. There's actually some tweaks with SB 1159 that at least for school employees that does not have that as the default. So it's currently sitting on the governor's desk. And then the other piece that has existed, but I think is coming into awareness for school leaders across the United States, is that there's the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, and it talks about employee leave. And so all employees, including school employees, can earn up to 10 weeks of leave if the employee is unable to work due to a bona fide need for leave to care for a child whose school or child care provider is closed or unavailable for reasons related to COVID-19. So this leave thing is really what I was speaking to a little bit earlier, that as a community of school leaders in Sacramento County, we're trying to work together on our reopening timelines, recognizing that if I have employees with children who attend school in Twin Rivers, let's say, or Natomas Unified or San Juan, that I need their students to be able to go back to school or their children to go back to school so that they're able to actually work and serve our students. So that's why we're trying to really kind of act in unison together on that, just to have that consistency for our students across the region. So how does this impact NCS? So school site testing, we're developing a process for all of our staff to participate in surveillance testing. It is voluntary, but will be encouraged. What this looks like is probably school employees being asked to get a voluntary COVID-19 test through either the county provided testing programs or through their primary care physician once every 2 months. We are working on rolling out one-on-one assessments and counseling services this week. Our distance learning hubs are going to start next week. We're doing a phased in approach. The idea is Star Academy first, followed by Leading Edge, followed by PFAA. What we're doing is we're using our tiered re-engagement process and really trying to identify students who are in most need of additional support. They would come to campus on Wednesdays. So if you remember from our schedule, Wednesdays are our more independent learn from home day. The idea is that the students are going to come to campus in these small cohorts on those days to get additional support from a campus monitor or instructional aide. And both Laura Burial and Addie Ellis are working on some training protocols. And then the last one is the elementary TK5 waiver. So at this point, we're kind of in a holding pattern on this. It's a little to be determined. Really, if we decide as a board and a leadership team, we want to go down this path, it is an interactive conversation with families and teachers and staff, likely a 4 to 6 week process. Currently, no schools in Natomas or any Sacramento County public school districts plan to apply for one. And as I was mentioning earlier, we need to move in unison with other schools in our area. I'm hoping that realistically too, with the 4 to 6 week process, reality is in 4 to 6 weeks, we're probably, hopefully, knock on wood, looking at opening our campuses for all students at that point, not just elementary, but middle and high school as well, based on the COVID numbers here in Sacramento County. And then just in terms of refinement, looking ahead, we're continuing to make adjustments to distance learning, continuing to solicit feedback, adjusting schedules and work dates. So some of the technical things to make sure that all students and families have access. I mentioned the individual supports we're putting in place, and then really trying to plan for a transition to hybrid by reviewing what's working with distance learning, continuing to solicit stakeholder feedback, and refining our processes with teachers and staff. So with that, questions I can answer about what we have going on so far?
Joe, you went by it quickly.
Sure.
How often are you going to encourage teachers and staff to take the test?
So the county surveillance testing protocol is for an individual once every 2 months.
Okay.
Yep. What they would like us to do is actually take our staff, divide them into 4 groups, and each group gets tested in a 2-week window. So group A is like the first 2 weeks, group B is the second 2 weeks, group C is the third 2 weeks, group D is the fourth 2 weeks. And so the idea is that a quarter of your staff is being tested every 2 weeks. And then for an individual, it's once every 2 months.
Thank you.
We've actually been encouraging our staff to participate in surveillance testing since about May. We did a survey a few weeks ago, and I want to say about 1/3 of our staff had participated in it at that point. So we're going to continue to encourage participation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Joe, I didn't see a specific call out on flu vaccine. Are you all talking about flu vaccine?
Yeah, it's a great question. So today, Leanne Quinones and Anita Schwab and I, so Leanne is our HR analyst, and Anita and I met to kind of discuss how we're going to do this. One, we are trying to engage our healthcare community. So we have Kaiser and Anthem Blue Cross for the most part, to see if there are any mobile flu clinics or that could potentially come to school. At this point, our understanding is that due to COVID, the healthcare providers are not really providing those this year. So we're going to do a little bit more research on that and make sure we haven't missed anything. But our plan is to strongly advertise for employees and for families and students as well, to work with their primary care physician and their healthcare provider to go. We also are kind of brainstorming, also potentially providing like 1 hour of paid leave so that individuals can go get their flu tests, or their flu shots, I should say, because we do recognize that, you know, flu is a huge issue every year, but in a COVID-19 year, even more significant. We want to encourage everyone to get flu shots to the greatest extent possible. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for hearing our COVID-19 update. We have a lot of great stuff going on in our school. And as a board, you should be really proud of the work that our teachers and staff have been doing, and parents and students at home. You know, distance learning is challenging for everyone.
Yes. Thank you for that. We'll move right into the facilities update, Dr. Wood.
So this one's pretty quick. So, you know, we have three campuses, Star, Pact, and the Black Rock campus. So at Star and the Black Rock campus, really a lot of our focus this year has just been getting ready for having COVID-19 protocols on campus. So if you were to come on campus, you would see little stickers and stuff on the ground, kind of setting up directional arrows. We're going to continue to develop that. On the Star Academy campus, we've had some glitchiness with the internet access in one of the buildings. So our IT staff's been working with the Star Academy team on getting that resolved for when more staff are back on campus. But most of our facility work's been over at Pact. So Pact is open, and we've moved in, and even better yet, we have internet. So they have fully functioning internet now. And right now, the Pact facility is just working on making sure all of their furniture is set up and unpacked, and teachers and staff are fully moved in. So that's the quarterly facilities update.
Any questions for Dr. Wood on the facilities update? Hearing none, Dr. Wood, the enrollment update.
So the enrollment update is in your packet. As you will see, we as a school, so if you look at the, and actually, yeah, thank you, Ms. Hone, for bringing that up. It's a little bit easier to talk about. So you can see our adopted budget is the first column just to the right of the academy. And we haven't done CBED yet, right? Because that's October 7th. That's when we'll put in the enrollment as of that date. But we have the enrollment here as of August 31st. And so if you look in leading edge, as of August 31st, leading edge was actually 2 under the adopted budget. We actually, in the adopted budget, probably have 2 more students at leading edge than we really should have. So leading edge will have 260 this year and not 262. If you look down in the next big section at PACT, our adopted budget was 200. As of August 31st, PACT had 207, but as of today, PACT actually has 214. And then PFAA is the next section down. PFAA, we adopted at 725. They ended up with 742. We had a little bit of growth in our middle school program, still at 742. Star Academy, we adopted at 600. They have 600 as of today and 600 on this document. And then at the very bottom, we have VLA. VLA, the adopted budget was for 100. We have 124, 123 as of today. Remember, both VLA and PACT kind of fluctuate quite a bit in terms of both the total enrollment and the number of students on the waiting list. So that actually takes me all the way to the last most column, where it gives you a little bit of sense of the waiting list. So you can see at leading edge, we're running around 20 to 30 kids per grade level on the waiting list. At PACT, PACT is a little funky. We have it reported here by grade level, but remember at PACT, we accept families as a family unit. We don't necessarily accept at grade level. So families as family units are actually in a waiting list together, but that gives you a sense by grade level of where we're at in terms of students on the waiting list. At PFAA, you can see that 6th grade is our largest, almost 100, but the 9th grade is close as well, and the others are kind of in the 30 to 50 range. Star Academy, we're looking at anywhere from 200 to 50 students per grade level on the waiting list. And VLA officially has 0 on the waiting list, but VLA, similar to PACT, has students coming in as students are leaving, and their enrollment tends to remain pretty stable.
Joe, I'm curious, 7th and 8th grade, that's our Project X group, right?
Yes, that is correct. And 6th grade this year.
Okay, so
excuse me.
We're down 30 in 7th and 8th grade, or we're under, I should say. And obviously we're making it up in other grades, but what about that?
So we are under. Alicia,
yeah, I'm here. So we don't know. You never know what's going on. My instinct, based on this kind of crazy year, is that usually people find Project X because it's an in-between a full-blown middle school and a full-blown homeschool. And because everybody's in distant learning, all of the families who usually come to us at the beginning of the year because traditional school isn't working for their child aren't in traditional school right now, and so they're not coming. That's kind of the best guess I have. They haven't had a kid who's holding it together 5 days a week sitting in a classroom, so they don't say, let's cut it down to hybrid learning, right? Everybody's hybrid learning, so why would they move schools? We normally have way more middle schoolers than little people, and this year our enrollment in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade shot way up. So we are just in a totally different situation than we usually are, and we're not quite sure why. I fully anticipate that when we go back toward classroom learning, that more middle schoolers will find their way to us, but I don't really know.
I would second what Alicia's saying. I think a lot of it has to just do with the nature of distance learning. What we're hearing from families is our K-2 families were actually very worried about their children being enrolled in a traditional distance learning program, if you will, and knowing that their students were going to need a lot of support because they're pre-emergent readers. Families kind of saying, let's just do this homeschool thing as a result. And as Alicia brings up, for Project X, a lot of the kids that come to us in Project X are kids that are experiencing some pretty significant bullying or other social emotional challenges. And I guess the one upside to distance learning is those are less prevalent this year, but we may see some changes as schools open to in-person instruction.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Any other questions, colleagues? All right, if there are no other questions on enrollment, Dr. Ellis, could I turn it over to you to tell us about the student board representatives for this school year?
Yes, ma'am. First, Ms. Peggy, I know you have 2 meetings left. However, I just want to say how much I have appreciated having you as a role model and leader and person that I can look up to and say, I know her, she's really cool. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
And you've earned the right to step away. So with that, I wanted to share some about our student board members that will be starting in October. So we have 3 student board representatives. Ali Kadiri will be from PFAA. Gavin Guest will be from VLA. He was with us last year. And Mark, also known as Max Montia from Lean. And I want to do a little bit different this year. As each year, the role of the student representative evolves a little bit more and they have a little bit more responsibility. So this year, Ziba and I will be meeting with the board representatives over the next week or so to explain to them the expectations of being a youth board member for being from their class. We'll also be reviewing the deadline so that they can prepare their reports ahead of time. Because what happened a lot this year and last school year was, coordinator the day or two before, and they would put some things together. So really starting to professionalize it a little bit more with the hopes of eventually preparing them to be more active participants. So we'll also review the board packet with them each month so that if they have questions, they'll be able to ask them to the board and to the people giving the reports as well. Let me see what else. So Mrs. Hone and I will meet with them this week. And then after that, Ziva will each month work kids and I'll be able to them to ask questions. And we wanted to let you all know, because as they grow and evolve into their role, it will also be important that we as the adult members who are voting also give them opportunity to speak. A lot of times when boards have youth members, they tend to have them as more of a nominal, oh, they have a face there, aren't they cute? And when we look at this as being something that they may be doing in their future with community engagement and involvement, we really want to teach them the protocol of being an effective board member. So that was all.
I have a question.
Oh, thank you for that. Ashante, go ahead.
Dr. Ellis, how do you guys choose the student board representatives?
So right now, the student representatives, PFAA, it's always the vice president of their associate student body has been the person who's moved forward. With Leading Edge and VLA, it's always come from the academy coordinator. So in future years, we may want to change that process a little bit and have it. I've been researching what other schools do. Many have an application process. Some have where it is a person from their associate student body. So we'll be reviewing that more. Most schools also have an actual policy of what it means to be a student representative on a board, on a school board, because it does tend to be something that has some, I don't want to say some power, but some expectations associated with it.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Alice, for Leading Edge, it's also one of our ASB students.
Thank you.
I think I would be interested in really formalizing, I think, the process of selecting a student board representatives, especially if we're going to be moving in the direction of giving them more responsibility and expecting them to actively participate in the meetings. And then also recognizing that these individuals really are subject to a lot of information that, some might consider sensitive. And even though it's, a meeting is open to the public, I think I would just be interested in making sure that, these particular participants really are appreciating the responsibility that they're given.
Yes, ma'am. And that's part of the reason why when Mrs. Hone and I were discussing it, is that we send them these board packets, and in many instances, we haven't had a chance to sit and review with them what's in that packet and why. So I appreciate Mrs. Holm for taking that on with me as a project that has become a labor of love.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. We'll look forward to meeting them at the next meeting, at the October meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Perfect. All right, let's move to item M. Dr. Wood, do you have further executive director comments?
I'd unmute myself. I'll keep them very brief. Just two little things since we'll see each other in 2 weeks. But the first one is exciting news. Natomas Charter School's Black Rock campus is actually going to be a polling place for the upcoming election. And just so those of you, if you're not familiar with how polling places are going to work this year, it's a little bit different. Rather than just being open on election day, they're actually open the weekend before election day and then Monday and Tuesday. So we will have a polling place available here on the Black Rock campus for those 4 days. It's also a location anyone could drop off their ballot as well. So that's kind of exciting. And then the other is just, I know I already said it once, but I feel like I want to say it again. We need to take every moment we can to celebrate our teachers and staff and families and students around distance learning. The way in which the Natomas Charter School community has risen to the occasion in regards to distance learning is amazing. And when I speak to other school leaders and other communities, they are not having the same experience that we are. And I really think that speaks to the professionalism and dedication of our staff, along with the dedication of our families and students. And I know on Friday, we sent out like a reopening update email and kind of letting people know that, we're not coming onto campus as quickly as we all hoped. And honestly, the feedback from families throughout all of that has been, we're okay. Yeah, we want our kids back on campus as soon as possible, but you know what? Distance learning is actually working pretty darn well. And, we appreciate that the Natomas Charter School staff and community continue to refine it. So just a huge bravo and thank you to our school community during this distance learning time.
Joe, I'd like to add that given what we've heard taking place or not taking place in other districts and other schools, down the line, it would be wonderful to have Natomas Charter more publicly share what is learned, the approaches to make this a successful transition with this distance learning, because I think we're a model, and I'm sure people need to benefit from that in the future when things kind of calm down a bit, because if we ever have to go into this mode again, Natomas Charter is a leader, and it would be great to share that further beyond, in our community and beyond.
Good idea. All right. Any further comments on that? I couldn't agree more. Joe, it's almost as if you knew COVID was coming and you planned it all.
You tried.
Really smooth transition. And I'm going to make it now the personal comment that this is what leadership looks like. When something happens and the leader steps up and makes a plan rather than freaking out or withholding information or keeping information to him or herself, they step up and they make a plan. So I want to commend not only all of our teachers, because I've always thought so highly of our teachers and our staff and our support staff and our students, but Joe came into an executive director position and then we hit him with COVID. So can't say more words of appreciation for all of you.
Thank you.
You guys got it dialed in. All right, let's move to item N. Any board of director comments?
I also want to echo what you said, Peggy, because I have, you know, a lot of friends in the community that are from, their kids go to different schools, and heard from them and how frustrating it is, and how they, you know, the admin team from their district hasn't done a great job in communication or just organizing the whole process of distance learning. And when I share what Natomas Charter has done early on, and it's not just where, you know, Joe and the admin team came up with it last minute. You guys have been working on this since May, and I think that's phenomenal. And when I share that with others, they really echo saying that that's a pretty amazing job to be starting that early on in the process. So thank you so much. And even having a child, you know, in the system, he has done such a great job meeting my son, and the teacher. I just cannot even say enough about her and how well she's acclimated to distance learning. And I know it's not easy because many of these teachers also have young kids and, you know, kids in school at the same time. So, you know, thank you to Joe and the admin team. You guys have done an amazing job, as well as teachers and staff.
I also want to say that I can definitely tell McKenna, she goes to PFA, and she's just so much happier in school. You know, I can see the shift in her energy and being back at school, and she's like, it's almost like school. So I know she's really happy. I know how much work everyone has done, and I really appreciated seeing her excited about school again. You know, definitely is something that warms our heart. And just want to thank everybody for thinking innovatively, and even when we're all really tired and there's so much going on in all of our lives and in our country and the world, you know, keeping it all together for the kids and going that extra mile. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, colleagues. Jen, are you going to say something?
I can. I would just have to echo what everybody else said and thank everybody for their commitment and dedication to making this as seamless as possible. Obviously, the kids are being put first, but I know that everybody's juggling other responsibilities and concerns in this time. So thank you all again.
Thank you for that. All right. Oh, I'm getting pretty excited. It's 7:42 and they said this meeting was going to go till 9 and it's not. I don't know whether to talk faster or slower. So future board agenda items. Ziba, if you did that on purpose, it was brilliant. Act like it's going to go till 9 when you know it's not. Seeing no future board agenda items, I think that we will call this one adjourned at 7:42.
Thank you, everybody.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
I will see you all on the 28th.
See you next time.
Watch your emails, please, for
okay.
Will do.
Signatures. Okay.
Will do.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.